Welcome to the Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez, where we talk everything real estate. Today, my guest is Tom La Croix from Allstate. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pat. Thanks for having me.
Great. Now, I always start off the show by asking, how did you get started? And in this case, how did you get started in insurance? I don't think anybody goes to school and say, I want to be an insurance agent. So tell me your story.
So I graduated from Indiana University of Pennsylvania marketing major in 1986, and Prudential was the first place that hired me. I remember I had 3 interviews and I ended up getting an offer at Prudential. I remember my father, God rest his soul, he's like, Tommy, that's you. That's the insurance business, that's you. And he was right. I started selling life insurance door to door. You know, Can't do that today.
No.
But actually gave me a debit, which was Fishtown. And I used to go knock on doors and sell life insurance. And that's how I learned the business. Then I learned the property and casualty side of it. And that's, the biggest door in every house is the garage door. So that's how you get in. So once I learned that, I just fell in love with the business. So here I am 38 years later. And I'm an Allstate agent with 2 locations and absolutely love what I do.
Now, how long have you been with Allstate?
So 2006, I opened my first Allstate. I had 3, and then I sold 1, and now I have 2.
Okay. And then why Allstate? Because there's obviously, a bunch of different carriers.
Good question. I wanted a big name. Because, when clients have claims, they want a big name behind them. They want to, they don't want to fly by night. They want a reputable company that they can trust and count on, and that's what I had that at Prudential. I spent a little time at Nationwide, and here I am at Allstate.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so now one question, because I have people buying homes, and they ask how is a premium? What are the factors that's going to determine what your premium is? I know in the mortgage industry, your interest rates are based on credit scores, down payment, things like that. So what are some of the factors when it comes to what a premium would be?
On the homeowners. So with Allstate, clients get 25% off if they do their auto. So if they bundle the auto and the homeowners, they're already saving 25% on the homeowners. Some of the other factors on the homeowners are, of course, the zip code, where they live. Is it a row home? Is it a twin? Is it a single home? All that's factored in. We have to calculate a replacement cost on every home.
Well, let me ask you a question. So is there a difference if it's a row home versus a single family?
I mean, yeah, it could be.
More expensive, less? Explain that.
Well, flat roofs. Flat roofs tend to be risky. There's some companies out there won't even write them. Allstate will, you have to maintain them. You have to recoat them every 3 years. Sometimes they do inspections. They actually send drones up to see what kind of shape the roof's in. I mean, 80% of your claims in Philly are water damage claims. So roof issues are huge for insurance companies, not just the whole industry, not just Allstate. But that factors into it. There is a little bit of a credit score. There is a claim history. If the client had a previous home and had claims on it, that could...
Well, let me ask you this question. So what happens if you're buying a house and the seller had a claim history, so there's a history on the house? Is that full on you as a new homeowner?
No. So it does come up. It does come up. We run a report that goes back 3 years, could go back 5 years on losses at that location. And you just have to delete it and scratch it and say, was the previous owner.
Okay.
The machine knows that because you're saying how long have they lived at this prior.
The machine. AI, go ahead.
Yeah. It knows, they just moved to this house, but they lived previously at this other location. So they know that the loss was not theirs.
Okay.
If it's inputted correctly.
So then, of course, things like, if you have a dog and just your overall history, right? If claims would impact?
Yeah. If you had a renter's policy, you lived in an apartment, you had a claim, that could be a negative against you. So it depends. It depends. But you can customize the policy.
Okay.
Things you can do with deductibles to save premium.
We'll get into that. So last question on that. What about your driving record? Does that impact your homeowners?
You know what? It does. With Allstate, it does. We look at how long have you had car insurance on the homeowner's policy. The reason they do that is because they give better rates for clients that are stable.
Right.
That have been insured for 5 years and have less. It's a small surcharge, if you will.
Okay. Okay, not that
driving
much.
record.
Okay, so then you mentioned like deductibles, that's going to change. Now, what about like full replacement costs for, what does that look like? Sewer backup, that's, pretty popular. in the
Optional,
city. Yeah,
optional coverage. So you never. I learned a long time ago. You never want to underinsure a home. You never want to overinsure a home.
Right.
So we calculated replacement cost. Based on the year it was constructed, based on the construction type, based on the square footage, based on central air and finished basement, things like that, built-in garage, things like that, and then the machine's going to give us a replacement cost, and we need to insure it for 100% of that. It's what you should do, because that's what it's going to cost to rebuild that home. God forbid it's a total loss. 1% chance.
Right.
God forbid.
Right. Okay, so now I've seen where, you have like maybe an older home with a stone foundation and they come in with these super high, replacement cost because, there's nobody around that can do a foundation like that anymore.
Correct.
So there's some, craziness when it comes to that potentially. So my question to you would be, can you get around that? Could you say,
can.
I don't want replacement costs, I just want to build a new home, if I had to?
So we call it actual cash value. So you could, if you had $1 million to like Germantown house comes,
Right.
or Mount Airy, Airy home. They're just unique homes, and the replacement cost would come in around $1 million, and then maybe the market value is $600-700. So you don't want to overinsure.
Right.
So I would have a conversation with the client. This is the replacement cost. This is what they're estimating it's going to be to replace it if it's a total loss, but we can insure it for closer to the market value for you.
Okay.
Because keep in mind, the lot is still standing.
Right, the dirt's still there.
It's still there.
Right.
So we just want to be concerned with replacing the structure.
Right. Okay. So now I have another question. A bunch of questions for you.
I love it.
Now, you could call one agency and another one, let's say, different. So if I call, like a Geico versus an Allstate, there's dramatic differences sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. Like you could have $3,000 a year, and then let's say Allstate's $1,500 a year. Why is there such a big difference from carriers? Not all the time, but I see it a lot.
Yeah, another good question. Geico writes auto insurance. They're a direct auto company. Progressive's a direct auto company, so they subsidize their homeowners. They source it out. I know, like Travelers, I think one of them uses. So Allstate and State Farm, we're standalone companies, so we want the business.
Right.
So to answer your question, like Erie for years doesn't write flat roofs. How they get away with it, I have no idea. But
Philadelphia, I don't know.
So they just charge it. They throw prices out there where they're not going to get the business, and they don't seem to mind.
Right.
They want the business outside the city, and that's just redlining or whatever you want to call it. But you just have to be, my opinion is, with a reputable company and a company that wants the business. And that's Allstate.
Okay. So I hear in the news, Florida, California, a lot of carriers are leaving the state. Premiums went from $5,000 up to $15,000. Some real crazy stuff going on there. Now, of course, they have, wildfires, hurricanes, and everything else. And I know replacement costs are so much higher. What is the market like? And let's talk about, PA and New Jersey, because that's where we're at. Do we see anything changing, or are those markets stable?
So Pennsylvania is good. I mean, I have some management friends, and they're making money in Pennsylvania. Insurance companies are losing money in New Jersey. So New Jersey's like a whole different country. I have a Jersey license, and we write in Jersey. We just quoted 2 this morning, but Allstate won't take it. All right. The reason they won't, they want to take rates. They want to increase their rates in New Jersey, but the insurance commissioner is pushing back and saying, no, we're not going to approve an 8% rate increase. We're not going to approve a 10% rate increase. We're going to give you 2%.
Right.
So these insurance companies are saying, I'm not doing business in your state.
Money. Right.
Liberty Mutual is pulling out. Allstate and State Farm is doing the same. There's like 300 insurance companies in Pennsylvania. There's like 30 in New Jersey. So it's a different country. I always say that. So what we do is we can write it through other carriers.
Right.
Allstate gives us the opportunity to write it through some other carriers.
Okay, so that's interesting. So the insurance is state regulated, right?
Correct.
So then you have the state regulators basically tells companies like Allstate or anybody else how much increase per year you can do? Like, do you have to petition towards
You do.
Okay.
So you have to.
What's that? Explain that.
You have to develop a plan. This is why we want to take rates on auto. This is why we want to take rates in Pennsylvania on home. And you have to give it to the insurance commissioner, and it's months, before it gets approved. And they push back, we're not going to give you 4, we'll give you 3. But they'll say zip codes, we're losing money in this zip code, so they'll have all the data. And like I say, New Jersey is just a whole different. New York, California, same thing. Allstate shut business in California, but from what I understand, they just reopened it.
Okay.
So hopefully in New Jersey, that's coming.
Right.
But I've been told it's ways off.
Yeah, and I know, like in Florida, the governor had to change laws and everything else just to get some insurance carriers to come back, and what a mess. Down there, they were literally down to like 2 or 3 companies.
Hurricanes.
It was crazy. Yeah.
They're worried about hurricanes. They're worried about earthquakes on the West Coast. And tornadoes in Central.
Right. Everything. There's
different deductibles. So you might have a $2,000 deductible on your homeowners, but you might have a $10,000 hurricane deductible.
Right. Yeah.
Or $5,000 hurricane deductible. So that's how they get around it.
Okay. Perfect. So now, is there anything that I didn't ask that people should know about insurance, just in general?
Well,
did I miss anything?
Homeowners. So the homeowners, you just want to make sure you're getting an HO3 policy, which is a full water damage policy. An HO2 policy is sort of like just a fire policy with limited water damage coverage. Again, in Philadelphia, 80% of your claims are water damage claims, so you want to make sure you have a good policy. You want to make sure it's with a reputable company. So God forbid you did have a claim. 2 favorite words of an insurance agent.
God forbid.
You know who to call.
Right.
And that's what I love to do. We get involved in claims because I want to be involved.
Right.
It's my name on that policy. It's my name on the building, and it's my client.
Right.
And I want to help them.
Now, you mentioned something years ago, and it stuck with me. You said it's very important if you have a claim to call you or the agent first. Don't call the 800 number, because you may say something that you shouldn't say, but at least if somebody talks to you, at least you can, turn around and digest that and say, okay, hold on,
Call your agent first. The reason being, when you call the 800 number, they're already starting the claim process, and they've already got a claim number assigned to you. Even if they pay out 0,
right?
You have now you have a blemish on your record. You have a
right. You may not want to put a claim in, right? I get it.
It may be below the deductible.
Right.
It might not be a situation. So that I always put myself in their shoes. I give out my cell phone number. I want them to call me. Tom, my roof's leaking. What am I going to do? And oh, by the way, I have roofers insured. I have plumbers insured. I have, contractors insured. So I can help them. We have restoration companies insured. So we can guide them in the right area. They need our help. And that's what, where they refer you. They refer you because you go that extra mile.
Right. And that's huge. Call you first. Don't call the 800 number, because it's going to start a claim, and you start a claim even though you don't put a claim in. Boom, it's still
it's on your record, and you can't get it off.
Right.
It's on there for 3 years. Even if you try to shop at a different company, it's going to come up that 0 was paid out. Sometimes people put a claim in, two calls in for the same claim.
Right.
And now they got 2 separate claims for 1 loss, and it's not a good thing. It's on their record.
Perfect. Okay, so if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, you said you give out your numbers. What are your contact information if somebody wants to talk to you?
So the Philly number is 215-744-9550. The Bucks County number is 215-949-6699. I'm in Bridesburg section, Frankfurt section, and I'm in Fairless Hills.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for coming on the show. You actually answered a bunch of questions that I had, so it was super interesting to me. Sometimes, insurance may not be the most exciting topic, but hey, you need it, especially if you're buying a house and if you have a car, that kind of thing.
It's important to have the right coverage.
Absolutely. Well, once again, thanks for being on the show. And that's the Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez. Be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe below. Super important. I have great guests coming on all the time with super interesting conversations. Also, if you have a question or a topic you'd like me to cover in the future, please let me know. Put a comment in. Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, this show is everything real estate, no limits.